The news just coming out that there are bodies of 5 hostages killed in the Hamas October the 7th attack, and that these bodies have been rescued by the Israeli Defense Forces, underlies the tragic human cost in this conflict. The retrieval of the remains, including that of Maya Goren, a kindergarten teacher, along with 4 soldiers, starkly contrasts with the ongoing efforts to rescue the remaining hostages alive. And this development underscores the brutal reality faced by those still held and the immense challenges in securing their safe return. But, you know, the return is there for the taking. It's just it doesn't seem to be a priority with Prime Minister Netanyahu. His assertion of ongoing intensive efforts to release the remaining hostages reflects Israel's questionable commitment to resolving this humanitarian crisis. His objective seems to be crushing the Gazan population rather than rescuing the hostages. The complexities involved are immense, absolutely, as illustrated by the need for international mediation involving the US, Egypt, Qatar. And while Hamas seeks a ceasefire to halt the war, Netanyahu's stance remains firmly on the necessity of defeating Hamas before any cessation of hostilities, indicating that the path to resolution is still some way off and fraught with difficulty. And if at the end of that path there is simply a ceasefire, that is not sufficient. The international community needs to press not for a ceasefire but for peace and for the two-state solution, and needs to press very firmly for this, both with the Netanyahu government, with the Israeli opposition, with the Palestinian Authority, and with the Hamas leadership. The international community needs to be engaged with all of these, pushing, as I say, not for a ceasefire, but for a path towards peace with clearly marked progression. The situation, the recovery of these bodies encapsulates a broader tragedy and the urgency of the conflict, emphasizing the need for a multifaceted approach to both immediate humanitarian concerns, which need to be dealt with, engaged in, understood, and acted on, and the long-term peace efforts, which similarly need to be engaged with by all communities. And the same sort of two-pronged approach needs to be taken with Russia and Ukraine. We have two hands because we can do two things at the same time. They don't need to be of the same nature. We can be supporting a peace effort while at the same time supporting the right to defend a country, and we can be calling for peace, but calling for a ceasefire, calling for setting a goal as something which is part of the longer process of peace is not enough. That's not the way forward. The way forward is to draw out a roadmap which is realistic. And the roadmap for Israel, I think, is clear. The roadmap for Ukraine and Russia is something that needs work. And I'm afraid both Israel needs to leave Gaza, just as Russia needs to leave Ukraine. Those two principles must be absolute.